Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're gonna start the development of our admin page. I'm also gonna show you guys how to work with middlewares inside Laravel and kind of give you hopefully a deeper understanding of what is happening under the hood. So what I would like to do for today's video, guys, is add a new route of /admin, and we also need to implement some sort of authorization to ensure only users with permission, or basically admins, have the ability to access this page, right? So I'll show you how to achieve that using middlewares, and then on upcoming videos I'll cover gates and policies, which are some additional features that Laravel has for managing roles and permissions. Okay, so let's get started. As always, I'm gonna first start off by creating the route for our admin page. So go open up your web.php file. So I'm gonna go ahead, copy the existing route we have for our dashboard page at the bottom, and so the new route is going to be /admin. For the route name, I'm gonna just add an admin prefix for it, and I think that's all we have to do. Okay, now if you guys would like, on a larger project, you could technically go ahead and create a new file for like admin routes only, but like for a small project like this, I don't think that is necessary, so I'm going to put everything inside web.php. And now we need to go ahead and create a controller for it. So let's open up the terminal, guys. I'm going to type in php artisan make controller. And now in order to separate our admin related stuff from kind of the regular user related controllers, I'm going to create a new folder for admin specifically. So we have it separated. Also, some of our controllers, such as the dashboard controller, obviously the name is going to be exactly identical for the admin sections and the user related stuff. So I don't want them to have conflicts. Now, one thing you could do, guys, as an option is you can also have a user folder and move all the user related stuff in that folder, and then have another one for authentication if you like, to separate it a little bit more. But I think it's okay for now. If we end up adding even more controllers, I might do that later on. But I think at the moment it's definitely manageable and I'm okay with it. So let's go ahead, create the new controller. I'm going to say php artisan make controller. We need to add the folder name first, and it's going to be admin / dashboard controller, right? You could make this an invocable controller, but I'm going to go ahead and have it be exactly identical to our regular dashboard controller. Let's open it up, and we are going to have a public function index inside here, and I'm going to return simple view. So super simple, that controller. And for now we don't have the view, but the view is going to be inside our admin folder and then dashboard. Okay, it's basically the exact same thing as our users dashboard folder with just an admin prefix, right? So we're going to have everything for admin inside an admin folder. So let's go ahead and create this view file. Now, I believe in the latest version of Laravel, there is now a new command, php artisan make view. So if you guys would like, I can go ahead and use that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and manually do it myself. Just something I'm used to. And then we're going to have a dashboard.blade.php. And for now, I'll just copy the exact same thing as the regular dashboard. Just we need to get rid of all the content inside. Obviously, we don't have any posts. And I'll add an h1 tag of admin panel. Okay, so we know we are on the admin page. So now that we have created both the controller and the view, we need to go ahead and update our route because it's still pointing to the user dashboard page, dashboard controller. However, because both our controllers have the exact same name, we are going to have obviously some conflicts. So what we can do is we can go ahead and actually import this, and I'll add all the admin stuff at the bottom. And so it's going to be under the admin controller's admin namespace. Obviously, the names are identical. You can go ahead on PHP. For an import, if you want to change, import it to something else, you can say as, and then give it the name you want it to be imported as. So I'm going to say admin dashboard controller, right? So this is going to be what we are going to use from now on. So let's go ahead and put this over here. Now, if you would like, you can have your dashboard controller for the admin also have it in the actual class name if you like. For me, I don't like that because it just makes it too long, and I'm not a big fan of that, but it's something you can do if you don't like it the way it is now. Okay, so let's go ahead and test it out, guys. I'm going to say /admin on our route, and it seems to be working. Now, we do have an issue. My current user isn't an admin, and as a matter of fact, we don't have a way to know someone is an admin. And if I log out, I'm also still able to view this page. So let's go ahead and try to fix all of these one by one, okay? So first step, guys, we actually need to make sure this is only visible when we are logged in. So we can go ahead and pass it in this auth middleware that we've been using so far. Next up, we need to actually add some sort of way to know someone is an admin. Now, there are many ways you can do this. You can have maybe a role, a field on your table, column on your table. You can have an isAdmin column in your table. You can have a separate table for roles and permissions. Today, I'm going to go super simple for our project and just add an isAdmin basically column. Okay, so we are just going to have a two-role system. So let's go ahead and create a new migration. I'm going to say PHP artisan make migration add is admin to users, and I'll explain more about this in a second in the migration. So basically what we are going to do, guys, is inside this new migration, we're going to add a new column of type Boolean, which is going to be is admin. So if this is true, or which is basically 1, then the user is an admin and they should have permission to view this page. If the user is admin is 0, that means they're a regular user and they obviously will not have access to this, right? Now, this is going to be the simplest form of kind of authorization you will have, right? So some people like to use, if your application is a bit more complex, you have multiple roles, you can have maybe something like a role field on your database, on your table, and this will, it can either be an integer or it can be a foreign key to another table. It's up to you. There are many different ways of implementing it. If you guys would like, I can maybe make a mini course on different ways of implementing roles and permissions. For now, we're just going to go ahead and use this approach. And we also need to write the drop as well. So let's do table drop column. So we also have the rollback. And that's it. So let's go ahead and migrate our database. We can say PHP artisan migrate. And this should go ahead. And it is working now. Okay, so for now, I'm going to write it. So far, we have done some sort of authorization. If I go and I show you guys, I believe we did it in our idea controller, right? We have a very simplified authorization, right? So for example, here, we are checking if the user is the owner of this idea, and if they are not, we are aborting, right? We are passing a 404. So this is the simplest form of authorization. Technically, we are not using any of the middleware, none of Laravel's features, and that's the basics, most simple way you can do it. Just do it on every controller, but this becomes a bit annoying over time. So we would have to probably employ some of the built-in Laravel features. But that's basically one way of doing it. And we can actually do the exact same thing on our dashboard controller as well, right? So we can go ahead. We are already ensuring the user is logged in, so we don't need to worry about it. So the simplest way is we can go ahead and do an if statement, get the logged in user, right? And then check if user is an admin. And then obviously we need to do the inverse of that. So if they're not an admin, we can go ahead and say like abort 403, right? And 403 is basically unauthorized HTTP status code. So let's do the HTTP 403. I'll show you guys. It basically means forbidden, right? So you don't have access to it. You can also do 404 or just redirect them to some page. So this is the absolute simplest way of doing it, okay? Which is not the best way, but it will work. So if I now go here, it's obviously sending me to the login page, right? It's telling me basically I don't have permission, right? Although I'm not logged in yet, so this is actually the auth middleware working. So let's log in first and then try to access it. Let's do /admin. Now we're getting 403 forbidden. Okay, so that's the simplest way of doing it. And if you have a very simple application like one page, you can go ahead and do it. So another thing we can do is we can go ahead and use a middleware like we have been using with this auth middleware and apply it on our routes. This automatically applied for all the routes on a controller, right? So all the routes we have inside this dashboard controller automatically get this logic. So let's go ahead and create a middleware, and I'll show you guys how it actually works in a second. So in order to create a middleware, you can go ahead and type in your terminal PHP artisan make middleware. So artisan also allows us to create middlewares, so we don't have to kind of write the code ourselves. And then for the name, I'm going to say ensure user is admin. You can name it whatever you like. I think this is just a good name, tells us exactly what it does. I'm going to hit enter. And Laravel will go ahead, or Artisan will go ahead and under your app, HTTP middleware, create a new file, which is ensure user is admin. And if you actually pay attention to this folder, guys, there are already a bunch of middlewares that Laravel comes with and which is used, right? So for example, redirect if not authenticated, things like that, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the middleware we just created. Let me close all the other files. So it was ensure user is admin. So basically with a middleware, what it does is it allows you to perform some sort of logic or intercept your application request. So perform some sort of logic beforehand or afterhand, right? And it can get a bit more technical, but I think the best way to actually understanding is by looking at the code. So basically what is happening is all middlewares have this handle method. And what they are doing is they are receiving the HTTP request, right? So for example, when we are loading this page, our browser is sending a request, right? All of those information is inside this request object. And then there is this next, which is all the other middlewares and the logic that should happen. So we're passing the request, and basically this next, what this does is it executes the next middleware and then goes through our controller, basically the entire request flow, right? And in order to see this, I'm actually going to add some logs so we can actually see this in practice, okay? So first step, I'm going to come this here, and there is a facade in Laravel called log. It helps us basically make logs. And I'm going to add a log over here and say before, I guess, code execution. And then I'm going to store the response of this next inside a variable. So let's say response. And then we're going to return it. So you have to return this response. Obviously, this is going to be your application, your actual response for the controller. And then we're also going to have another log after this next. And I'm going to say after code execution, okay? So now let's also open up our controller, which is going to be our admin dashboard controller. And I'm going to go ahead and add a log here as well, okay? So I'm going to, for now, comment this code so we can actually see it. And I'm going to say log info inside admin dashboard controller. Okay, so now that we have this, in order to actually see logs, guys, all the logs in Laravel are inside storage, logs, and then laravel.log. So mine is empty. I already cleared it, but that's just something to keep in mind. So now before this middleware is actually applied and it is going to work, we need to register it. And in order to register a middleware, guys, you need to go under your HTTP folder. And basically, as the name suggests, all the code related to HTTP requests is going to be inside this folder. Under kernel.php, this is actually the file you use to register or set up your middlewares. So the first property is where you define all global middlewares. And these are middlewares that are applied on all routes. All the routes on your application will have these middlewares, right? So all of them handles cores, prevent requests during maintenance, validate post size. All of these are basically always applied to all routes. And then if you come to middleware groups, as the name suggests, you're basically grouping a bunch of middlewares together, right? So if you apply the web middleware to a route, it will actually have all these middlewares applied as well, right? So you're grouping them together to make it so you have to basically write less code, right? Same, so by default, Laravel has a web and API middleware group. Now, if you come down, we have another one for middleware aliases. So usually if you want to add a middleware, you have to give it like the full path of the class. So middleware aliases make it easy so you don't have to do that. You just use the shorthand for it, right? And so far we've been using this auth middleware, right? If you guys remember on our route, the alias is actually defined inside this kernel of PHP, right? So it's basically this middleware over here. So what we can do is we can actually go ahead and create an alias for our ensure user is admin. So I'm going to say ensure user is admin, and I'm going to name it admin for now. Okay, so just the shorthand for it. So now we have registered our middleware, and we can actually go ahead and easily access it on our routes. So let's go ahead and do this admin route. Let's go ahead and also give it a second middleware. And in order to pass multiple middlewares, you can pass an array. It's going to be the auth middleware as well as admin middleware, right? So from now on, what we would like to do is add this admin and ensure the user is an admin, right? So now that we have this, guys, we have basically added our middleware to our route. And if you guys pay attention to these logs, we also have a log inside here. Let's go ahead and run this page or reload and see what is happening. And I think this should give you guys a good understanding of how middlewares are actually working. So I have done this. Let's go to our log file. And if you guys pay attention, this one was from before that I actually opened it. So we got one code here which says before code execution, right? Which is basically this log file, this log. Then we are doing this next request, which basically goes in, executes the next middleware, goes to our controller, runs the controller code, which is basically, you know, logging and then returning the view, returns the view, which is going to be like all the way inside response. And then basically what we do is we return it, right? So then after this, we are basically doing another log, which is after code execution. And if you pay attention, this is the order things are logged out, right? So for example, if you want to perform some sort of check, such as our is user admin, we can do it before this next request, right? So middlewares allow you to perform some sort of logic, whatever you like to do before the code execution or after the code execution, or you can inject something into the request, right? So you can actually modify this request as well. So far we've been using the request helper. Basically, you can update with the content of the request. You can also receive the request helper actually in your methods as well as an argument if you guys would like, but we haven't been covering that yet so far. I will have a separate video on request objects later on as well. So now that we know basically how middlewares work, in our case, we can actually move this logic that we had over here, guys, auth ensure user is an admin, over to our middleware, right? We can just move it over here. Instead of having to manually check on every method of our controller, we can come over here, basically say, hey, is the user an admin, the logged in user? If they are not, abort, or maybe you can redirect them to the login page, whatever you like to do. You can update the logic to your need, and then basically have it execute the regular application flow, right? So we don't need to store it in the response anymore. Usually you have to do that if you want to perform some logic after the code execution, maybe log something, whatever you like to do, okay? So, or modify the response in some ways. So now that we have this, actually, this should just work out the gate, okay? So we already have the auth admin middleware on our route. And again, the logic is if the user is not an admin, abort, and then our controller is basically an empty controller, right? We don't need anything here as well. So let's go ahead, let's do a reload, and it's telling us forbidden. So basically, guys, what we have done is we have some piece of logic applied to our routes using middlewares, right? And if you take a look at some of the Laravel middlewares, some of them do exactly the same thing, such as like a verify CSRF token, right? Now, this is technically extending another middleware, which is this verify CSRF token. Basically, what this token does is before your actual application code execution happens, right? Before the request gets to your controller, it checks if the CSRF token is valid. If it's not, it just basically gives you that. I think I forgot what the request is, but it gives you, you know, something unauthorized or something like that. Okay. So it works in the same way. So now that we have this, guys, another issue we have is how can we actually make one of our users admin, right? Now, one way is you can go ahead and open up your, PHP admin, or if you have on Mac, you can use Table Plus. Another way is using another tool that comes with Laravel called Tinker. So let me show you guys how it works. It's a command line tool for interacting with your application. Okay, it's very useful if you are in an SSH with your server and you want to access or modify something or just see some information. You can use PHP Artisan Tinker. So let me show you guys how it is. In order to access it, just type in PHP Artisan Tinker, and let me make this a little bit bigger. Hit enter. And now you should be inside some sort of command line application. And with Tinker, we can go ahead and execute PHP code, right? So by default, you have access to the user model. So here I can go ahead and say user. This is the same as accessing our user model over here, right? And I can say, for example, find one. Any eloquent or any method we have called so far on our models, we can actually access inside Tinker. And if I hit enter, we get our first user, right? Which is like this test. We can even see is admin over here, right? So this user is not an admin. And I'm not sure which user I'm logged in right now. Yeah, I'm logged in as this user as well, right? So if I want to make this user admin, what I can do is I can go ahead, find this user, and then go ahead and call update on it. And set is admin equal to 1. Now, in order for this to work, because we are when you're using update, your mass assigning, we need to go ahead and add is admin to the user fillable. So let's go ahead and add that so we can easily update it. Now, this could potentially be a security risk, so you always need to make sure you're validating your data before mass assigning. So just something to keep in mind. If you don't want to have that risk, just don't do this, okay? So let me show you guys how you can do it if you don't have it inside fillable. You can just store it in a variable, something like this. And I have one extra parenthesis. I can say u.isAdmin equals to 1. This will basically make the user an admin, and we can say u.save. All right, and to double check, we can get the user again, and is admin now is 1. So this user has become an admin at the moment. So if we try to access the admin page now, we are able to actually do it. If I log out, I think I have another user here as well. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure. Is it Alex? I could be wrong. Yeah. So Alex is not an admin. So if I go ahead and I try to access the admin page, we get the forbidden, right? So we have implemented a super simple authorization setup. Now you can actually extend this logic a little bit more. Like if your table, you have like a role, you can check like if role is like admin, only allow the user to access this route, or if the role is like 1 for admin. So you can extend this a little bit more if you guys would like. But this is the like very basics of working with, middlewares inside Laravel. Now, one more thing I would like to do, guys, if someone is an admin, I'm going to go ahead and add a new link of admin over here, just so we know they are an admin and can quickly access our admin page. So let's go ahead, open up our, I believe, header is it. So where is our header? I'm not sure actually. Let's go to our views. VS Code is not finding it. Resources, views, layout. Okay, we don't have a header actually. We have, it's called nav, right? Yeah, it's called navigation menu. So next to here, what I'm going to do inside our auth, so we have our profile link, right? Next to the profile link, I'm going to check if the user is an admin and then show the admin link, right? And we can do a super simple check. We can say if auth user is admin, go ahead and basically show a link to the admin page, all right? Super simple stuff. Admin, and then this one also should be admin. And then instead of name, we can say admin, all right? Or admin dashboard. We can update this later on if you would like to extend it. Let's do a quick reload. We don't see anything for Alex, which is my account. Let me log out, log in as the other user, which is a test@test.com. Now we are getting an error that admin is not defined, and that's because the route is actually admin.dashboard. I forgot to do that, which is why it's just good to actually use route names, because if you have any typos, it'll just let you know that, hey, the route doesn't exist. So let's reload, and now we know, okay, we can see the admin dashboard. So that's it, guys. We have created a simple admin dashboard. You can go ahead and put any logic you like over here, maybe display all the users. We will be doing that in the upcoming episodes. Although before that, I will show you guys a few other ways to actually handle roles and permissions. This is one of the easiest ways of doing it. You can add a simple column to your database. So let me open up add is admin. So you can add a simple column to your database to recap, to manage the role. It can either be a Boolean, it can be a role. You can have a separate table for that as well. And then we can go ahead and create a middleware. And in the middleware, just check if the user is an admin or whatever role you like. Maybe you can have admin, manager, something like that, editor. Check if they're not that role, abort or redirect them to a different page. Maybe to redirect them to the home page, whatever you like to do. Maybe even log it over here. And then add that middleware to all the routes you would like to be protected, right? So in this case, any route I want to be for admins, I'm going to go ahead and add this admin to them. All right. And that's the very, very basics of it for managing authorization using middlewares. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section below. On the next episode, we're going to expand upon this, and I'll show you guys how to use guards, which is a kind of a Laravel feature for managing permissions in some ways and authorization. So as always, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe so you get notified of the latest videos, and I see you guys on the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.